Hereby call to order April 14, 2025, a meeting of the Town of Hanson Planning Board. To order here at 6:30 p.m. at the Town of Hanson, 542 Livery Street, in the first floor Board of Selectmen's meeting room. I'd like to also announce for all those in attendance that this meeting is being recorded for distribution on the Women Hanson Community Access. Playback times and other related information on this recording can be found at whda.tv. With that call to order, we have the full board present, as well as our town planner's office. And for clerical purposes, if you haven't signed in, please make sure that you do so, as we have a presentation here in the audience, or some visitors in the audience. Please make sure you sign in on our visitor log, which is over by the entrance door table. The first item of business that we have, gentlemen, on our agenda is the action for the March 24, 2025 open session.
I'll do the motion to approve the minutes of March 24th.
Motion has been made by Mr. Coe.
Second.
Happily seconded by Mr. Benonato. Is there any discussion in regards to that motion? Seeing none, all those signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Minutes are approved. We have an appointment tonight at 6:31 p.m. Continued adequate access determination. Elm Place LLC is seeking an adequate access determination under Section 7.1 of the Hanson Land Use Regulations zoning bylaw. The properties are identified as map 112, lot 3, lot 2727, and lot 2828, and are located on Elms Place. Town planner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. At the last meeting, the applicant presented a plan. We were looking for some comments from the fire department and also some additional information regarding the LLC. The applicant did provide a copy of the LLC to the planning board and have submitted a revised plan, which is on the screen. We did receive a comment from the fire department. They were okay with this plan. They're good to go. So it's almost the same plan. What they did do is they did widen the driveway at the end to allow for emergency vehicle access and turnaround, and also are showing some drainage to capture the runoff from the driveways, which will then go into infiltration systems. I believe the applicant and his representative are here this evening to discuss it. So I'll turn it over to them.
Yeah, absolutely. Please.
Good evening, Joe Webby Engineering, here with the applicants of the Elms Place Realty Trust. And like Tony had mentioned, basically we spoke with, the fire department really have any concerns. They know that they do have to back down this road, to kind of mitigate and make their lives easier in the event of an emergency. We provided a 24-foot wide, basically straight driveway here at the end lot that allows the ambulance at least to be able to go in there, back around, turn out, or if you have a situation where you have an ambulance and a fire truck at the same time, one or the other can pull off, onto there and allow the other move above. So that basically takes care of the concerns that we had as far as the first responders and getting in and out of there.
Any questions from the board?
Yeah,
Mr. Kevin.
I see four, I don't have my glasses on, but I see 4 dwellings here, which brings us under stormwater management. What's the main house? Because we got lot 1 on the end there. We got an existing and another potential all on the same lot. So I'm confused about that.
So currently there's 2 Form A lots here, and then there's the existing dwelling on this lot. Theoretically, potentially based on the amount of area and frontage, that this could be reconfigured in order to basically have one more lot here on Elms Place, and then the house at 408 State Street would still remain at 408 State. With respect to the storm water, we are providing stormwater mitigation.
Yeah, no, I get that. That's not what I'm talking about. So you actually had the potential, right, where we approved these 3 lots, right? As soon as the approval's done and you've been construction, you're gonna come back and ask for another lot, right? And then you won't have to do stormwater management because this has already been approved. So I don't understand how that can happen.
With respect to stormwater management, we're providing stormwater, on these lots, and again, on any lots at Elm Place. So I mean, the whole idea is to not increase the runoff that is already going into Elms Place. So I mean, if we need to do a watershed analysis to demonstrate that that we're containing that stormwater with the use of these Caltech chambers, that's certainly something that we can do. Again, very sandy soil there. There's no problems with drainage,
That's not the question I'm asking.
I think what Mr. Kemet is trying to ask, if I may, Mr. Kemet,
Yes.
there's significant stormwater differences between adequate access determination as to trigger subdivision control law. Town planner, do you have any comments?
Well, the stormwater, I mean, they are providing some mitigation.
Yeah, we get that, but my point is, that's not my point. We're doing some stormwater management. It's exactly what Joe said. No one's actually answered that question to this point. I'd like to see that question answered.
well, I mean, single-family homes are exempt from stormwater management in Massachusetts. Again, these are Form A lots, and there's no problem with drainage as there is in the road. Basically, once this is completed, that's going to be it. There is no more, development that could be done, along this roadway. I think if what you're talking about is going and digging up and excavating this entire road, making a mess, putting in drainage.
I'm not saying any of that, right? I'm saying what Joe just brought up, right, is if this gets approved and you come back and you bifurcate that first lot, right, it's a 4-lot subdivision. So how do we prevent that?
How you prevent it?
Yes, that's my point, is, because that's what's going to happen. As soon as we approve this, you're going to come back and you're going to ask to separate that lot and put a 4th house on there. So why don't we just be upfront and honest and say we want to put 4 houses there?
Well,
And split it up and do it right.
I think that is what we're doing, but again,
I don't think so.
These are Form A lots.
We know all of that. You're missing my point. You still haven't even answered my question. Why wouldn't you just make 4 houses and call it a subdivision and get over it?
Because not a subdivision, based on the subdivision control law.
Okay. Anyway.
Any other board members have any comments or questions?
Yeah, how come my question isn't answered?
Can we put a condition on the approval, Tony, that to record that one? It's almost as if having that proposed on there is really.
It's insulting.
I do have some conditions that I would like to see the board take a look at to put on
Please
this.
tell me, what do you suggest?
So one was that the applicant is to provide drainage details and calculations for the proposed drainage structures prior to construction to be submitted to the planning board. The other one I had was that the applicant must submit and receive A&R approval for potential dwelling depicted on an approved plan prior to the issuance of a building permit and adequate access approval. I'm not sure if this one is, the board would be comfortable with this one, but that this approval applies to the 3 dwellings units shown on approved plan entitled Adequacy of Access Plan of Land in Hanson, prepared for Elms Place, LLC, scale 1/20, date 3/14, and revised through 4/11/25. And the last one is that the applicant to provide final grading and drainage as-built prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy, copies to be provided to the planning department for review.
Can you repeat 3 again, Tony?
This approval applies to the 3 dwelling units shown on the approved plan entitled Adequacy of Access Plan of Land. No edit as the board deems.
So I would like to know why we have a plan that has 2 dwelling units on 1 lot. I'll put it that way. I was like, why are we going to accept a plan that has 2 dwelling units on it? And I don't care what you're going to do. I'm saying what it says on that plan right there is it shows 2 dwelling units on lots. That should not be on there.
This plan is an adequacy of access plan.
But you're still showing two buildings.
Mr. Webby?
If you read your regulations, it says that we have to show the potential lots, potential houses on the plan. That's what we've done.
Right.
Mr. Ellis, did you have one?
It's similar to a roller coaster road, but another guys speak for the drainage coming off the property.
The drainage on the property. Yeah,
took care of the drainage.
they have the drainage on them. They have highways, so it's similar nature where they're keeping the drain on their lots. Yes, that's similar to roller coaster road. The difference is that roller coaster road was 1 unit per lot. It was 1 unit,
Right.
There wasn't anything additional.
Yeah.
Right.
And that existing.
Mr. Bennett,
Sorry. That existing dwelling, what street does that face?
That's 408 State Street.
Okay.
So technically, that's not part of these other two Form A lots that we're discussing right now.
And I don't have my glasses too. What's the difference? Never mind, I can see that. Okay.
If I may.
Mr. Cohen.
So this is resident A, is that correct? So in resident A, required square footage will be 30,000 square feet per lot, correct?
Yeah.
30,000?
Yeah.
So,
I think it's 30.
so there isn't enough square footage to subdivide that lot anyway, is that correct?
Based on what's there, that's 55,000. And there's an intention to change lot line with, if you take them cumulatively, you'll find they'll add up to about 4 lots.
What are we seeing as far as the total frontage along State Street? 8.01?
16770.
167?
16770.
167.
Frontage for that zoning for the corner bylaw law to be applicable to the corner bylaw?
It would
Be
be,
150 on both,
if that's how they lay it out.
if it was. So that wouldn't even apply into conformance with the corner bylaw.
So I think what I'm trying to say, I think one of those houses, when you approve it, you're approving, somebody opens it up and looks at it, they're gonna see two dwelling units on that lot. So if you approve it, you're de facto pretty much approving 2 houses. Should not be on that.
Tony, have you provided that list of those 4 conditions to the applicant?
No. That's the conditions for the board, and that's if you want to apply those conditions.
Does the board have any issues with applying the conditions the town planner said? Do you want to hear them again? Could you repeat them one more time, Tony?
Sure. So I have one that is applicant to provide drainage details and calculations for proposed drainage structures prior to construction. And you can amend that to say, or add to that, prior to provide drainage detail and calculations for proposed drainage structures prior to construction to the planning department for review.
I would say for any additional dwellings, because there's already one that's already in
On the construction.
2, please.
The applicant must submit and receive A&R approval for the potential dwelling depicted on approved plan prior to issuance of a building permit and adequate access approval.
3.
This approval applies to the 3 dwelling units shown on approved plan entitled Adequacy of Access Plan of Land in Hanson, Mass., prepared for Elm Place LLC, scale 1:20, dated 3/14/25, and revised 4/11/25.
So that's only inaccurate because one of those lots,
And would you want number 3 to be put on the plan itself?
Well, this would be on record with the building department and the town clerk.
And number 4.
Applicant to provide final grading and drainage as-built prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy, copies to be provided to the planning department. The reason why I had number 3 in there was the application does say, yes, existing and potential lots. Does the board want them to come back for, if they do that, a potential house lot, do you want them to come back for another adequacy determination, or do you feel that what you're doing, let's say tonight, is sufficient to make that determination? So, again, these are 4 suggested conditions. The board can amend or not do.
I would also add a 5th one to make a determination to remove the potential dwelling. Also that way. Those conditions sound.
Good evening, Jason Kennedy with
Yes.
Elms Place.
Hi, Mr. Kennedy.
Thank you guys for listening to Joe's presentation.
Appreciate it.
I
Thank you.
understand the input from first. I think the purview of the adequate access is to determine if this roadway is adequate for the items laid out in the bylaw, the Hanson bylaw.
Yeah, I get
We
that.
had the fire department on record saying that he's fine with it. We increased our driveway per his request.
Thank you.
We did not have to do that. The drainage that we put on all 3 lots to control the runoff, even though on the last meeting it was stated that there wasn't a lot of runoff, we did that. and we meet the requirements for the amount of asphalt.
I agree.
That's what
Couldn't
it
agree
says,
more.
but we also just added some conditions, hold up a permit. I think that's what I told you. We offered to meet with you, Tony, before this meeting, so we can go over anything, so those are kind of surprises. We just waited weeks we met with the fire department the day after. We waited 2 weeks to come in here. That was the only change that we made to the plan. I know this gentleman's brought up subdivision, questions about law. I think those are not within the purview of what we're discussing here. We're not discussing this to other lot, but on the bylaw, it shows this, to show that.
Yeah, sure.
So we're following it. Now you're saying, don't do it. Let's hold up a permit. Let's come back and do this again. Feels like things are changing here. So I'm trying to figure out, we listened to what your input was. We came back with an adjustment to the plan.
Yeah.
And now here we are. I don't even know if some of those things.
I could also agree, and I don't want to pour salt on any wound, and I'm not going to the Wayback Machine. But if I'm not mistaken, hasn't a house already been built
Yes.
without having an adequate access determination?
Yes.
So let's get to the neutral middle ground here.
I would like to talk about that.
I can certainly propose that, and I'm not going to speak for everybody on the board, but I certainly could propose that what we see as a subdivision, by putting on the propose of that corner lot, so this board needs to make sure that we are doing our due diligence. It's nothing personal. We're doing our due diligence to make sure that we're voting on something that's proper. We're voting on something that every single one of us have not on this board in 2 years, and all of a sudden this comes back as a adequate access or just even a permit application into the building inspector for building a home on that corner lot, that it just doesn't get, pencil whipped and approved, So there's a lot of back and forth where we're here on the knife's edge, trying to make a determination about adequate access, about whether this is a subdivision, so that, we're just kind of going through that vetting process. The town planner's offered some pretty significant requests in his details, and I think if you could kind of read between the lines about what the town planner's suggesting, as I think we all are, we have to take all that into consideration. We totally understand.
I would like to add one thing.
One second, I'm not done talking. We totally understand what the adequate access determination says, and that's great in the black and white, but there's a little bit of gray area in there that we need to make sure that we're in compliance with. If you don't approve, you can certainly pull this, or you can listen to some of the things that we're trying to make sure that we have dotted i's and crossed t's. Yes, we totally agree. We see the drainage on your lot. We see that you talked to the fire department. We got an email about it, I think 2 days later. We see that you widen the driveway to 25 feet. That's great. If there's 6 cars in that driveway, nobody's talking about that. You're gonna put it on the fire chief to pull those out so he can pull his truck around and when the house is burning. So, there's some really hypothetical things that we can go down the road here. You're correct, yeah, what the black and white says about adequate access, absolutely correct. But if we were sitting down and there was some mitigation in front of us, there's a lot of other things that would be coming up that we'd be discussing, that we're trying to stay away from, for not only the town of Hanson, but also for you as the applicant.
Okay,
If I
Town
might,
planner.
none of these conditions are holding up your permit.
I thought you mentioned something about.
It's not,
There was one
it's
condition
not holding up the building permit. None
I
of
thought
them,
that's what it said.
no, none of them say I'm not holding up the building permit on any of them. But I'm asking you is to give us the calculations prior to construction.
Fair. Total. Okay.
I'm saying that the approval of the 3 units that are shown there, I'm saying that for that potential dwelling, you're obviously going to have to come in for an A&R, and that would be done prior to any kind of building permit, because obviously you need the A&R approval.
That's what I didn't understand, Tony, when you said that. I thought you meant permit on lot 3.
And the final grading and drainage is prior to certificate of occupancy.
Completely.
So I'm not
Yes.
holding you up there.
Sure, that's reasonable. It was the second item. I thought you were saying withhold the permit on lot 3. Of course, came back for another lot, that would be withheld. That's very.
Can I speak?
Mr. Kevin?
Right, so again, my point, I'm gonna keep reiterating it until somebody calls for a vote. That third lot on the end, right, for adequate access, right, you're supposed to have a plan that shows the reality of what's going to happen. And you've got a plan that has 2 buildings shown on it, and you also have verbiage inside of your application mentioning the idea that you're gonna separate these 2 lots and put another house. Is that true? Or am I wrong about that?
No.
Right, so as you look at adequate access, you haven't filled out, you need an eraser in order to approve this plan. You have to take that wording out and one of those buildings off that lot. Otherwise, we can't approve it for adequate access. Am I wrong about that?
Yes, sir.
Place. I don't think that an adequate access permit, approval of an adequate access permit.
I don't care what it guarantees. We're gonna sign this thing, right?
I let you.
All right, go ahead, go ahead.
That would be a Form A plot was in compliance with all now showing potential for the language of the adequate access. We certainly, once we figure out the general purview, how that would work, we would be back, but the adequate access permit, all we're here for tonight, asking for a lot that's not subdivided.
If I might, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Town Planner.
What about the alternative, John, if they left the house but showed the potential lot?
Yeah, I mean, all I'm really trying to say, I don't care how you guys, figure this all out, but I can't for sure vote on a plan that shows things other than what is supposed to be on the plan for adequate access for that roadway, right? So the wording that's in there and that second building, right, is not part of this adequate access. And why would we sign that? I know I will not, because it's not shown correctly on the plan, right? Simple as that. I mean, go home, get an eraser, take all that stuff off of there, and then we can approve the adequate access. What's wrong with that? Why is that a problem?
Okay.
Yeah.
Perhaps, I mean.
No, perhaps. I'm asking a question. I still haven't gotten an answer. Why would
2 weeks
we,
ago,
how could we
this
approve
was-
this?
this is the same
I don't
thing
care
we
about
looked
2
at
weeks
2
ago.
weeks
We're
ago.
talking about now.
We would have
Right?
made the required changes that you're mentioning now 2 weeks ago.
So I only had one bite at the apple. If I don't do it, if I don't think of it at that meeting, I'm finished. I'm here. We haven't done the adequate access. We haven't signed it. And I'm saying to you that this plan is wrong, right? So say whatever you want, but that's the truth of it. And I'm just trying to make sure that when I sign this and this goes to the registry of deeds and this becomes a reality, right, that it is actually a reality. And that's not the case with this plan. It looks to me like you're just trying to add another house on to the adequate access when there is none. There should only be one house on that lot in that drawing. And if I'm wrong, prove it to me
Joe just said it.
with empirical data.
Well,
Okay.
we're asking for adequate access. We're not asking for a second house to be put on that lot. We're
Then why is it
asking-
on there?
Because clearly,
It shows it on the bylaw.
the logic is if this access is adequate for this, then it would be adequate for this.
So let me ask you another.
We're not
theoretical-
keeping this a secret, what we're trying to do here, so.
Can I ask you-
I'm not talking about
It's not
secrets.
about keeping it secret
Yeah.
about what you're trying to do. It's a matter of not discussing the fact that stormwater management, if it was a subdivision, is going to be extremely different than what we see here today. You have to agree with that.
Perhaps, but again,
For the town planner, would stormwater management look extremely different with this same plan if it was a subdivision as it is a?
If it was a subdivision, stormwater management says 4 lots or more.
And what would the cost estimates in your professional guess be?
Well, if it was a subdivision and it was 4 lots or more, then you're talking maybe detention basin or something like that. So yes, there's,
And improvements to the roadway as well.
right, if it was a subdivision.
Right, so you see let's get off the nice edge, let's talk about how it is.
Well, if we're off the knife's edge, we're talking 3 lots on one road and a 4th potential that would still be on State Street. We're still not at subdivision volume.
So I suppose the point would be, would you rather have an adequate access determination now on what you're submitted, and then have the town of Hanson pull you back in to do all the subdivision changes, the improvements to the stormwater management for subdivision change when you go to get that corner lot approved?
Mr.
Well,
Chair,
I think we just said that we're still with houses.
Town planner.
well, I just wanted to throw that as John saying, okay, remove the house,
One of them,
Or-
anyway, yeah.
or that's what I'm saying, or the alternative is actually show the lots,
Right.
the lot being split.
Right.
Would that
Yeah,
work?
and once you do that, it becomes a subdivision, am I correct? And then adequate access is a whole new ballgame. So I'd like to see those questions answered before I sign off on a adequate access. Because I think there's a lot of information that's
The only way it would be
unclear
a
yet.
subdivision would be if we were creating frontage, which we're not doing. We have frontage.
Not for that corner lot if you're creating a subdivision, because that lot becomes a corner lot now.
Well,
So again, you don't have the frontage out on State Street.
Maybe we do, maybe we don't. I mean,
I can tell you right now, it's simple math. You don't have the frontage on State Street according to our corner bylaw law, unless you want to raise that house or get an easement for a bathroom to the other corner.
Well, then I guess it's a moot point then.
It's not a moot point because we don't know in the future where those dwellings are gonna land.
But again, you just said we don't have enough frontage to do it.
So why are there two houses on the lot? I'm just gonna go back to simple truth, right? This plan that you submitted, right, has two houses on that lot. And we can't prove an adequate access according to this plan. Simple, real. I don't see how more complex that needs to be.
Mr.
Right?
Kennett, I
So-
respect what you're saying.
Get an eraser and come back. That's my thinking.
Okay.
Right?
We were following the requirements that are stated on the application. I think it's reasonable to comply, but we were here 3 weeks ago. It was not brought up. And at that point, Tony said at the meeting, he did not have a problem with the plan as it was.
Well, that's him. He can say whatever he wants, and I can say whatever I want, right? So can you.
Okay.
Okay? Yeah.
Is it okay to talk? I'm trying
Yeah,
to
go
have
ahead.
a conversation. I know this is an argumentative thing. We're just talking about the adequate access. We bought this project. I went to the building department and specifically talked to the inspector and said, what do I need to do to get building permits for these lots? That all you do is submit a building permit application. After Kerry Glass was released, I was told that the next permit I pulled by Tony and Mike Crisafoli that I needed the adequate access. I was never told this before we bought the 408 and the two other lots. So we came before you 3 weeks ago, no problem. We submitted what we thought was required. Obviously, there was some input that we needed to add or listen to and add to the plan. We did that. Now here we are, what we thought was a complying plan, and you want us to go and erase one house? Sure, we can do that. That seems reasonable.
Yeah.
I think that would be reasonable to do, but we were looking to get the approval so we can start building our third house. I just lost 3 weeks of bank interest on this project because I cannot start this other home that I bought thinking that it was just getting a permit. So I understand some of the points. I think we've made a reasonable effort to comply and satisfy the board. We don't have any problems with the abutters on Elms Place. We don't have problems with the fire department, and we don't have problems with the town planner. So what would be
So-
the issue?
Hold on,
We're-
John, hold on,
keep-
John. Hold on, John.
We keep repeating,
So- What if you put a condition that says that this approval specifically applies to parcel 112-0-27 and parcel 112-028? Any further division of this property requires coming back to the planning board for adequate access determination.
So that essentially essentially removes the potential on the plan.
Removes the potential. So all you're saying is that your decision is going to be for those two lots, nothing else.
Okay.
Would that be better?
So
Would that work for you?
what I'm trying to get to, right, and, I understand people want to get things done. I understand that, maybe I should have picked up on this the last time, but I didn't. So here I sit, getting ready to sign off on an adequate access with a plan that shows two houses on one lot. I can't do it. I will not do it. And I don't think anyone on this board should until that building's erased. And I'm not looking for trouble. I'm just trying to make sure that when this gets submitted, that second house gets removed and the wording relating to that, right? Because if we approve adequate access on this plan and it goes in and it goes to the registry of deeds and you take it to the building inspector, is he gonna watch this tape and is he gonna take all that into consideration? I doubt it, right? So what we sign off on and what we agree to should be on the plan, and it's not. Right? So I don't know what you guys want to do about that, but I just know that I'm only one person on this board, and I will not vote for that. So what do you guys want to do after that is up to you.
Or how about a condition that says that what if you could write the condition that says applicant to submit a revised plan removing potential dwellings shown on parcel 112-0-3 prior to the issuance of the building permit? No?
Okay, and that seems somewhat reasonable, but at the same token, we're gonna vote in a couple of minutes, hopefully, and get this over with for this plan as we see it on this piece of paper, and it's not accurate.
Right, but what I'm saying is that they'll revise the plan and submit it back to the planning board planning department for review that is removed before they get an issue. So in other words, they don't get a building permit until they give us the revised plan that says, that's shown that's off.
That's what you guys
Do
want
you
to
still
do.
want your 4 conditions on there, Tony?
Well, number 3, I think, you would have to change that to the 2 dwelling units shown. And if they're going to remove potential, then I think number 2 could be deleted.
You still want
Can't see that
1
stuff on the plan.
becomes 2 with 2 dwellings as written.
And we're removing the language about the second house on that lot.
Yes,
Correct.
yes. So that the applicant would submit a revised plan removing the potential dwelling shown on parcel 112-0-3 and submit plan to the planning department for review prior to the issuance of a building permit, any building permits. So they get us the plan revised, take that information off. If the board is okay with me doing the review, then I could let the building commissioner know that they've met the requirements of the planning board. But again, that's up to the board if you feel comfortable with that.
It's up to these.
Questions, Mr. Ellis?
Yeah, so Tony, stormwater management is what the state requires. Is that being met?
If you read
I don't have it in front of me.
If you read the stormwater management guidelines, they talk about 4 lots or more.
So,
Yeah, somebody else is gonna come along at some time and do it, and they say, why should he do it? He's got the last lot. There's a potential. There's gotta be something in state law.
They're gonna take that off.
Mr. Ellis, nobody will have the opportunity to do that after we develop these 2 lots. Because they won't be able to conform to get a Form A lot on that proposed.
What's on the other side of the road?
2 houses.
2 single-family homes?
2? So, yeah.
Yeah, 2 single family.
So now you got 5 on the road. I think that falls into the stormwater management, as far as I know, but I don't want to say something that I haven't reviewed that in years. So what the state says about, you get more than 4 lots, you have to comply. If you hold back now, and then all of a sudden, somebody wants to come out and build it, then he's got to do it.
Yeah, somebody, at the end of the day, somebody's gonna do it, because he's actually expressed an interest in splitting this and making it another lot. So, plus you have the 2 lots that are already existing, so by the time you're done, this is like a 7-lot subdivision, right? With a roadway that's pretty much a driveway, right? So, to me, this just seems like, what are we doing here?
I got to answer that question.
Not stormwater.
Yeah.
What would it take to make it comply with stormwater management?
That's a good question. With respect to the road or the lots?
For what they say, what's the state says?
Well, I mean, again, I'd have to look and see what the state says. I disagree vehemently that this is a subdivision under the subdivision control law, because we have Form A lots that have frontage on accepted roadways. So again, that's being applied to if we were creating a road, then obviously we would have to do stormwater management.
Well, that's going like this, but we already got 2 lots on the other side of the street. You got the 2 or 3 that you want to do, that's 5 lots.
Yeah, but those aren't.
And somebody else comes in and wants to, I think they were talking about splitting a lot and adding more, so I don't know. I'm just asking you if you, because you're the engineer, and what would it take to satisfy that state law?
Well, again, we'd have to see if it actually applies to this
Right.
particular situation, which I don't think that it does, but I would have to look into that. Again, I mean, those existing Form A lots that are on the other side of the street are not part of this project.
So I just want to point out to you guys,
Mr. Kemp.
at the end of the day, when you sign off on this, if you sign it off the way it looks now, you're literally saying it's okay to do this and come back later and add another lot and not comply with stormwater management. And one of the functions of the planning board is to take care of stormwater management, make sure that's done correctly. So do what you want to do, but not right.
Could I say?
Yeah, sure. Last comment.
Sure. If this whole thing was rotated 90 degrees, and these lots were on State Street. We were asking to add 3 lots to State Street. Would you make us comply on water management?
Who cares? That's
Redesign
nothing.
State Street?
Who
I mean,
cares?
essentially, that's what you're kind of,
That's-
here's what you're kind of asking, right? Is we have an existing roadway, and you want us to now.
When you say an existing roadway, are you talking about Elms Place or
Elms
Elton Place?
Elm Place,
or-
well, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, essentially, your toothpaste is out of tube, as they say, right? I mean,
yeah.
this,
As far as the town of Hanson's concerned, in Elms Place or Elm Place, or what was the other name we found?
Elm Street.
Elm
It
Street?
wouldn't be a subdivision if there were Form As on State Street. It's really, if you look at it like that, then it's hard to say that it would be a place. I mean, you couldn't take someone else's land on the opposite side of the road to put a detention basin in that create frontage. I mean, it's kind of a,
Yeah. I'm gonna defer to Mr. Ellis, he has an answer for you.
You're sort of right, but you're wrong, because the street itself has all the drainage that's there.
State.
So anything that runs off of any of that property does not, or if it's a vacant lot on the street, but it's got the drainage and it's approved by the, street is approved by the town, it's already, will pass. So you don't have to do stormwater management, it doesn't comply. It's when you have a road that goes off of the main road, and you have all the water coming down, that's what they want, that's what the regulation is for. And it appears that you have that here. And I'm not trying to stop it. I'm just trying to make it so that the next person comes in, and does it the same way. What the rules say. We're not making up the rules. We have to go by state laws and stuff. Joe knows. So I don't know if Joe can come up with something.
Well, I mean, again, we'd only be talking about 3 lots on Elms Place.
You got 2 on the other side that have driveways, which contribute to
There's
it.
one at the end as well. So I'd entertain a motion that the applicant could receive approval for this plan, provided that it is resubmitted as stated by the town planner, showing revisions to that 112-0-3-0, keep 112-0-27-0, keep 112-0-28-0, inclusive of the stated requirements of 1, 2, and 3, which will be recodified. It was 1, 2, 3, and 4 by the town planner. Now it's going to be 1, 2, and 3. In addition to that, approval that town council weigh in by writing their opinion that this is not a subdivision. Motion is Mr. Benonato. Is there a second? I'll call one more time. Motion by Mr. Benonato. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
There's a second by Mr. Kevin. Thank you, Mr. Kevin. Any discussion in regards to that motion? Tony, were you able to encapsulate all that?
We'll catch it on the,
Awesome. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 5-0. That is approved. So a little bit of homework, a little bit of change. Town planner has to contact council to get a vetted opinion, and then we can talk about things just after.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I would say we can submit the plan to Tony to submit to town council after that house that Mr. Mitt requested is removed.
Correct, yeah, that would be the correction, yes.
so the
Yeah.
decision of the planning board would be to give a positive determination on this?
Yeah, so long as all those those boxes are checked, yeah, with conditions. And we get proper weigh-in from town council about that.
Yes,
Thank you very much,
thank you, gentlemen.
appreciate it. Thank you for the debate.
Thank you.
I appreciate that as well. All right. 6:40 PM, now it's 7:15. We have another appointment, 99 Ocean Avenue. Applicant for certification to the general license by Sylvia Pajoni
Yes.
to construct and maintain a 4-foot by 16-foot dock in the waters of Westlake, Hanson, Plymouth County. Town planner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
So this applicant submitted a form.
I have 3 in your package.
Hey, Joe, can I ask a question about this?
Okay.
Has this been approved by the Conservation Commission?
Yeah, we're first stop.
Okay.
So this applicant lives Ocean Ave and has frontage on Westlake. And they're looking to put in a temporary dock, a seasonal dock. And so they have to file a Chapter 91 waterways license. So there's different types of licenses, and this particular project falls under what's known as a general license certification, which states that the general license certification offers applicants for small residential docks, piers, and similar water-dependent structures that meet specific size, location, and design standards, a streamlined self-certification process for obtaining a Chapter 91 waterways authorization, which is what this particular applicant has done. So there's requirements under that, and some of them include, is the structure for residential, non-commercial purposes? Yes. Is the structure less than 600 feet? Yes. In this particular case, it's 128 square feet total. Will it require dredging and filling? No. Is the property located in ACEC? No, it is not. Is the property located within what they know as a DPA? It is not. Does the project include any roof structure or superstructures? No, it is not. Is the site in a non-tidal waterway? Yes. Is the structure limited to 300 square feet? It's under that. So as part of that process, they have to follow the regulations of 310 CMR 9. And so part of it requires filing a statement. So they have to they have to do a public notice, which they put in the Whitman Hanson Express. We have a copy of it. It was on 327 and 4-3. And they also have to file a project statement, which is basically a description. So the project description is a personal use for kayaks. The location will be stemming of the backyard, 4x16 pier with 4x16 T. This work will be done by 2 people with no use of machinery, such as trucks or cranes. This will be done by manual labor and installation. They do need approval from the conservation as part of the process, which I believe that they've done.
So you're saying they have approval from the project?
I do not know if they have approval. I believe that they've filed for, based on speaking with the conservation agent. So under the regulations, it says that for the planning board, the project proponent shall submit to the planning board a statement and plan that includes the proposed use, location, dimensions, and limits, and mode of work to be performed, which they have, and describes the proposed project with sufficient detail for the planning board to determine if the proposed project complies with the eligibility criteria and applicable standards and conditions of the general license. It pretty much does. The planning board may solicit the opinions of other municipal officials, such as Board of Selectmen, Harbor Master, or Conservation Commission. Within 45 days of receipt of an adequate statement from the project proponent, the planning board may submit a written opinion to the department, or whether the project meets the eligibility criteria listed in 310 CMR 9.292 and will comply with the standards and conditions of the general license, 310 CMR 9.293. The department may affirm certification after the expiration of 45 days without local planning board comment, or upon receiving notification from the local planning board that it does not oppose the project's eligibility or certification. So the board has 45 days, which by my count is May 11th. So you do not have to act on this tonight.
May 11th, that being a Sunday, would that bump that automatically to May 12th?
They don't distinguish between business days or actual days. So we're using actual days, so it'd be May 11th. So the board can move this to the next meeting to further discussion, because I do wish to get comments from other departments as required.
Chair would entertain a motion to postpone
But continue.
Ocean Ave application till to 4/28 to receive comment from, at a minimum, Conservation, Select Board, would say fire as well, because they have to do water rescue, correct?
You could ask for fire. I mean, this is probably something that is, and Harbor Master is the other one.
Yeah.
So any of the departments that are listed within the requirements under the section 9.29, I'd like to get comments from them.
Entertain a motion to postpone to 4/28 until the planning board receives comment from minimum fire, select board, and conservation, and whoever else the planner office sees fit to receive comment from. Motion's been made by Mr. Cohen. Don't forget.
Go ahead.
Yeah, second by Mr. Ellis. Any discussion in regards to that motion? Seeing none, all signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? 5-0, Tony. We'll postpone that to 4:28 till we receive proper comment. Seeing the time have arrived of 7:21, I'm going to open the continued update of the Main Street Pedestrian Improvements Project. The project consists of replacing and/or constructing approximately 4,000 linear feet of sidewalk along Main Street from High Street to Elm Street. Town planner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Roy Messier is here from Verdantis, who's the consultant that's been working on the project to provide an update to the planning board. And on the screen, you'll find revised plans based on the comments of the planning board and public comments from the last few meetings.
Wonderful.
Yeah, so,
Sorry for the delay. Hey, who knew?
it's okay. The, basically, biggest changes we made from last changes, just we had a few utility poles that were in the sidewalk area, that we didn't have 36 minimum ADA requirements, so the location to basically just extend the sidewalk around the poles, that's.
Where were those locations? Was that up by Elm or further down?
Could you scroll on the next page? It was, next page.
Is that all fuzzy, dude?
Yeah, it's,
Yeah, it is.
it's the image behind it, so
Yeah.
blow up like this.
I'm just checking with that, you know.
I told you, you scroll forward, that zoom in on that?
Now, the computer behind your desk was good up here.
Hey.
I know.
It just makes
Go back to that first location, please, so we just know exactly where it's at.
that one right there.
Yeah, but, yeah, behind us. And this thick line, I think, rating line.
Okay. Okay.
Right. Here's another area here. They're still all within the right of way.
Mhm.
It was one, it was down.
Let me just bring this back so we have an overall. One more, all right? Here's high. Right, hold on. There you go, sorry.
Yeah, this location.
Is that within that business's parking lot? Just me again. Yeah, where's the parking lot?
Here's the red is the problem that's coming behind us.
Okay,
That's, we still concreted, but the.
just the two?
The man.
Mr. Ellis?
How wide are the sidewalks in general?
Right now, they're showing at 5 feet, but I know from some of the property owners, so they could be 4 if it goes in construction of the planning. Why is that?
So what's
Mr. Kevin?
what's the maximum for ADA compliance?
We just need about 36 inches.
36? So if you shortened it, it wouldn't like affect the ADA compliance, I guess.
No, we just have to make sure at those utility poles, we have 30.
Town planner?
Just to bring to the attention of the planning board, we did receive some comments from Mary Ryan at 1209 Main Street, and also her, I believe it's her daughter, Melissa Cushing. There was comments received in an email on March 8th, which I forwarded to Mr. Messier and his team regarding some of the questions and concerns that this resident had. So I don't know if you took a look at those and addressed any of them.
Can we go to 1209, Tony?
If you want to get there. No, one of the questions.
Anybody want a sweetie?
I know one of the questions was regarding stormwater runoff, but driveway opening is already there, so we're not bringing it in. Right. It's the walks, when they get there, they're gonna be sloped toward.
Existing structure.
So we're good if that gets done.
1209.
Hey, Joe, quick question. Are you gonna use common strategies on the roadway itself, you know, with
Not doing anything to the roadway,
oh, you're not doing,
No,
you're not touching
well,
it?
just walk.
that was one of the questions that also that I had sent in was about the speed on the road and we were going to doing devices on the road building. This project just shows sidewalks, nothing, we're not doing anything.
Here's 1209, sir. So the comments will, what, Tony?
Is this all right, right? This is the driveway?
Yep.
Yeah, so one of the questions that she submitted with any additional runoff here, but we're not doing anything to her driveway, we're just posting sidewalks along right now where there's grass. If the sidewalks, if they have. to-
Where's the roadway?
Right.
Yeah, they're never going to intend to put any runoff onto.
The other comment was about this, where you mentioned about, if we're gonna do any traffic calming, with speed on the road, for our,
No speed bumps.
No, we can't put speed bumps on Route 27?
If I might, Mr. Chair.
Yes, town planner.
So there was a total of 7 questions. I was able to answer, I think, most of them, but there was still 2 that Verdantis provided answers for. One was regarding the stormwater, and the response was that during the final design parameters and engineering controls will be noted on the design plans to facilitate construction of diversion berms to facilitate stormwater runoff to the existing roadway drainage infrastructure.
what we were saying is, if she's having issues here. When this gets constructed, she plans if we wanted to, up berm and here to eliminate. We're not reducing any additional runoff. So.
One of the other comments in particular was pole number 116, which had a 3-foot offset from the roadway. The revised alignment has been provided on the revised design plan station 13+0, I believe you talked about. And one of the other ones was regarding calming, also calming devices, if you will. The funding source is related to pedestrian improvements. Presentus can provide a traffic study, propose recommendations under a separate proposal if requested by the town. But it's not part of the grant. Grant is for the sidewalk.
Any other questions, comments from the board? Town planner?
I do not have any comments at
As
this
this is a
time.
public hearing, we have some people that are here tonight. Does anybody have any questions, comments, concerns?
I'd just like to ask a question.
Sure,
I'm
please.
Ryan, I'm the one that lives at 1209 Main Street. And I understand you're not gonna change anything, but it took us years to finally develop enough area and berms so that the water would not come down my driveway, which it has done for years, and they've done many things. We finally, this last year, do not have water coming down my driveway, but if you stop the sidewalk.
Wait a second, Ms. Ryan, hold on. I gotta write that down. We gotta pick, because everybody's getting water.
And, seriously, if you stop the driveway, the sidewalk just before the driveway, where does that water, is that gonna keep going down the road, or is it gonna come into my driveway? That's my question.
So the way I envision this happening, if this was to be constructed, you have the sidewalk, you would have curbing. Well, here you have an ADA ramp that would come down, but from here, you have asphalt berm to eliminate the water to come down. So that water would run along the curbing and keep on running along the berm.
Yeah, that's the perfect world. Okay, so there's shut-offs for gas and water, and they're in the road. Now, are the sidewalks gonna cover
No,
them?
they would be just when they cut the sidewalks, they would just the.
Because there's no covers now, they're all underneath,
Right, so what happens is you have a gas gate, so what happens is they have like a cover,
Yeah.
you put in the concrete, same thing with the water gate. I don't know if it takes
And
cover.
so the sidewalk, you said it's 5 feet, I thought it was 3 feet originally.
5 or 4, depending on what happens in the final construction. Minimum, we need 36 inches to get around the.
So some of them, they'll be on the inside of the pole instead of the outside?
So if you envision you have a sidewalk and you have a pole, say you have a 5-foot walk pole there, you don't meet 30 clearance. So wherever that pole is, sidewalk would come around minimum 36 inches from the edge of the pole. So in some areas, instead of 4 feet or 5 feet wide, that particular area where the pole is, maybe.
Okay, so what happens to the fence that we put up? Your pole is going to, I need 4 feet from the pole into the yard, which will knock down the fence that I have.
So the sidewalks are within fences in the town's right of way or in your property line. These walks would be in the town's right of way, not.
Yes.
Charlotte Basket, 1222 me. Are they still set on having 2 sidewalks on that street, that section of the street?
Yes.
They know how narrow that part of the street is?
Yes.
Traffic calming.
Huh?
This is traffic calming.
Just that we find it narrow enough. I can't imagine narrowing it anymore.
We're not narrowing any road.
Then taking people's property, and that is within the town's right.
It's not taking any property.
It's not taking any.
I know.
I know what you're saying. You see your grass goes up against the edge of the road, but there's a section.
I'm not complaining, and I'm on the side that it did have the sidewalk originally. The other side, Mary's side, neighbor's side, their lawns would be cut into.
Not necessarily.
Yeah.
The town's property would be cut into.
Right.
There's a big determination.
But the lawns go like this,
Okay.
some of them, and then others, it's a circular driveway.
Yeah, we're familiar with Main
20 feet
Street.
from the road.
Yeah, we're familiar, we're all from Hanson. We're also part of the board that we've heard for decades that the town needs more sidewalks, and it needs to be,
Well, I'm in agreement with sidewalks.
yeah, so it needs to be walkable and safe,
But
and
I
that's
don't-
exactly what the plan's proposing. So if there was anything that the town was to utilize on the town's property that was to effectuate anybody's private residence, private lot, then the town would mitigate any of that if it needed to happen. So it seemed to be a lot of comment, a lot of concern about, well, what happens when the town develops via sidewalk its own property? How is that going to drop in the bucket to anybody that has frontage that abuts that? It would be mitigated. It wouldn't be just eroded away or.
It means that several of my neighbors would be like 20 feet from.
I'm not sure what you mean by 20 feet from 27.
Well,
Are you saying their houses, because we're
Yes.
looking to put sidewalks in, that their houses are gonna move?
No, you can't move the house.
Right.
But the lawns are not flat lawns, they're lawns that are heaped up.
Yes. Yeah, they're
And
mounded.
you're gonna cut
Right.
into those.
Yeah, so they're mounded. So is there a concern about what happens after it's cut into? What's gonna happen to the mounding?
Do they make a wall? Do they, what are they gonna do?
Yeah, that would,
It all depends, it's either gonna be smothered back at a three slope, or we
Yeah,
can't-
regraded.
We can't meet that, then it would be smothered.
And then on my side, it goes down.
same thing.
So it's the same thing, either we fill it in to pick up the grade, or we not, put a wall there and grade it, so.
I'm not sure who the property is specifically, but there's a property that has, if I'm not mistaken, 6 massive trunks right at the edge of the road. If this project's going through, if those are in the way of the project, it would have to be ground down.
Be cut out.
Right, so that's pretty nice of the town to do that for those property owners.
It's the price
You know,
of trees.
so that's where, well, they're already down. They're just stumps. Yeah. So, you know, in the end all, having 2 sidewalks on Main Street is going to be a major improvement from what majority of people in town have said through survey and outreach. And
Do those people live on?
I couldn't answer that. I don't know who they answered it. I just know that we've heard for decades that Hanson
People that live on Main
needs.
Street, we're telling you, we're not happy to sidewalks.
Yes.
That's it.
Sharon Laporte, 1202.
Hi Sharon, how are you?
1202 Main Street, right across from Mrs. Ryan on 1209. I see no reason, businesses and so on, to have 2 sidewalks, because you go to the end of Elm Street and you'd have to cross a road to get to the restaurant that's on the corner going west. And I don't understand why 2 are necessary in such a small area, because we have a wide enough area on our side of the road to do that. It's not a problem for us. And I realize what the town owns, the town can develop. But on the other side, it's a little bit different. As she said, there's a lot of people will be losing, well, half their front yards, because when the houses were built, they were not understanding what the town owned, what it did.
And they were all built probably prior to 1853.
Right. So the standard of today's roadworks and the improvements, the standard from the state is going to be to have what is most applicable for what ADA and the desirability of what that Main Street area could be. That's why the proposal is to put the 2 sidewalks in. Could that change further down the road because it's just too expensive? This is all conceptual here.
Right.
It's nothing's been signed off on. Absolutely, that could change, and especially now with the way that things are through granting and stuff like the finances of the town. There's probably going to be a change with this. We haven't even talked about lighting and all that other stuff yet. You know, nice trees. Yes, go ahead.
Hi, Pam Fraser. I
Just out of full disclosure on Pam's
This is my neighbor. And my mother and my aunt, so I grew up, growing up on Main Street, of course you have to be careful. I like the idea of the sidewalk. I do question having 2 as well. But also, and it's supposed to go all the way to Elm Street?
High Street to Elm Street.
Okay. Because I know my mother and I had been to a rezoning meeting where there was a business owner who was looking out, find and put in, and he was talking about an increase of trucks. Now, there's a lot of trucks that go up and down, and we've always run over that. But I'm just concerned with the increase of trucks, as well as, obviously, the train down the street, you can't get out of your driveway at certain times of the day, which, you know, you put up with. I would just be concerned about pedestrians. I don't know, I actually kind of feel like it would be safer if it was just one, because I grew up there, there's so much business going in and out, you really gotta be careful walking. And I'm just concerned if maybe there is 2 that people think, oh, it's a lot more walkable and whatnot, which I'm certainly all for a sidewalk, but I'm just concerned, and I'm just putting this out here because you guys already know about this anyway, it's just a commercial concentration area. That I would want to make sure it was as safe for pedestrians, because obviously, the sidewalk disappears, they gotta, walk in front of businesses and stuff. So I personally would think that one would be best, even just for safety of the pedestrians, but I'm just putting that out there.
Yeah, the design standards now is what
Yeah.
the opinion is, what's safer for the pedestrians is the sidewalks and
Yeah.
with proper crosswalks. Mr. Kemp?
So, on Main Street where the train stops, those things come down, right?
Yeah.
At this point, what happens is when the train arrives at the station, those gates close. So everybody has to sit there and wait for people to get off the train and all this other stuff. So I think that's a strategy. I met someone at an MMA conference, which is, that story. But they said that if you submitted a thing to say, would like that changed because it interferes with traffic on the roadway, the MBTA would have to do that. So you could try to get a change so that, those gates stay up even though the train's in the station. Does that make sense? And you can ask them to change that because that would lessen the traffic because people wouldn't be sitting there while people get off.
What do? Do they put a gate down along the tracks to tell the engineer don't move?
No, as it sits now, I don't know why the MBTA did it this way and why it is that way. Is when the train comes from the north, from north into this train station, it's not crossing the track.
Right.
But the gates go down.
Yeah.
And you sit there and wait and you wait and you wait. And it's like, why are we waiting here for these people to get off the train? Or on the train or off the train, whatever it may be. So I guess what I'm saying is, I think if you could advocate for having that changed, yes, that would make your traffic situation less of a problem. Throwing that out there. Anyway.
We have final approval updates for April 28th.
No, I don't think we're looking for action tonight because you're at what would you say, 75% design?
Okay.
So I think now it's a matter of you're hoping to get to what, 100?
100. Can you do that? You think?
So
You want to do that at 428 or 512? 512?
512.
Entertain a motion to continue the hearing for the update of the Main Street pedestrian improvements project consisting of replacing and or constructing approximately 4,000 linear feet of sidewalks until our planning board meeting on May 12th. Motion's been made by Mr. Cohen, seconded by Mr. Beninado. Correct? All those, any discussion for that motion?
Yeah, I have one quick question.
Mr. Kevin?
Do we have even a slightest idea of what this is going to cost? Will there be a cost
I
analysis?
think we prepared a rough order of magnitude cost.
yes,
I don't have that off the top of my head.
I don't hold me to it. Trust but verify. I have to go back into it.
Just like a
But I think it
ballpark.
was,
Yeah.
I think it was about $1 million for 2 sidewalks in concrete. $500,000 for 2 sidewalks in asphalt. I'd have to go back and verify that and get you. I can get you that information. I'd have to go back and find that information, but they did prepare a rough number.
And I do have one more quick aside.
Let's
I
go.
have one other quick question. If the MBTA community things changes, that situation changes where grants are available, would this be able to be funded by the DOT?
Well, we probably could apply through Safe Streets or Complete Streets.
Retro?
Yeah, that's always available. As far as I know, that one is not. You don't have to be compliant to apply for that. The big thing with the Safe Streets and Complete Streets is the fact that you have to put up money. You have to put up a matching funds, which becomes the problem. Yeah, which in essence becomes what holds us back a bit because of the fact of having the funds to.
Motion made, properly seconded. No, any further discussion in regards to that motion to postpone till May 12th? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? 5-0. We'll see you again back on May 12th. Appreciate your time and thank you, everybody. Appreciate you coming in. We gotta finish. They're about 7%. Yeah, 7%. Moving on, seeing the time have arrived at 7:44. We have a continued update of the Hanson Open Space and Recreation Plan. Representatives from VHB will discuss revisions to the Hanson Open Space and Recreation Plan based on community and board input. Town planner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have representatives tonight from VHB who have been working on the open space and the recreation plan. We have Julia Mintz, right? I've said that correct?
Yeah.
And Krista McGaha.
Pardon the 1 hour delay.
All good.
Pick it up on the next one.
Thank you for having us back for a
Appreciate
second hearing, and nice to meet you for the first time. So, like we introduced, we're with the I'm Julia Min, and we're here to give an update on the open space and recreation plan. So we'll give an update on where we are in the overall project timeline. And at this point, we've submitted the first draft of the plan to Tony at the end of March. So, there's a lot of, we'll go over the goals of the plan, and then leave out with some next steps. You want to, so like I said, I'm the project manager in an urban plan PhD. So to give an update, across approximately 5, we are right where the yellow star is. So, it worked well to schedule this mid-April because we're pretty much right in the middle of the town common. Tony can circulate the plan internally to anyone who needs to review, and we'll file comments to return to us.
Okay.
And next line down, final plan developed. We will be implementing all of the town's comments, and once we have a clean version of these town feedback, the final step will be to submit the plan review and approval. So, we'll be done with the plan, including town feedback, approximately beginning, or rather mid-May, at which point we are about to reach out to them just to let them know that we'll be submitting and to ask if they have a general limit of how long their review process is. That's, docket, and we'll provide updates as we know. But, when we get the plan back from the state, we'll include any of the state's comments so that looking to wrap up the process. The draft plan includes 8 programs. There are several, dozens of actions, and for the sake of keeping high level today, we'll take you through the goals. We'll really hit on the key issues and opportunities that are in process, into which all of the more specific goal 1 is to enhance open space connectivity. Some of the actions that fall under this goal have to do with signage, wayfinding and informational sign at open space and recreational sites, pedestrian access improvements, identify apps and safe walks, including sidewalks, and creating accessible connections between open space assets, and then improving and expanding the town's trail network, including developing an up-to-date inventory of needed improvements or amenities. Goal number 2, to expand and improve recreation, accessibility, and tourism. We spoke a lot in the review process about balancing economic growth with conservation goals and centering the assets that the town has and really taking more in the town's brand to make it kind of a regional destination for so under here we talk about continuing to implement Camp Kawani Master, developing new and accessible recreation areas with non-school playgrounds, engagement, increasing field capacity, a need that was identified, working on increasing sports field capacity, and improving access to water-based lands. Both conserving that land and adding new amenities. Strengthening environmental stewardship and climate resilience. We heard a lot from our stakeholders about how residents have a lot of problems, beautiful natural resources, and there's just a need for more education, enforcement to really build a sense of ownership over open spaces. Issues like litter, dog and even horse races, ATV use. Having a collective sense of ownership. So a lot of the actions on this goal focus on education means. Enforcement of environmental regulations, habitat initiatives, and public awareness about how to take care of what these spaces are and taking. And our 4th goal, repurposing and underutilizing dated sites for recreation. There were several sites we discussed throughout the stakeholder engagement process. Site next to the senior center for a used trail, another new trail potential MBTA right-of-way behind the Ocean Spray site. Generally looking at remediation options for contaminated sites and mental inventory section. Contaminated sites are throughout the town and High Street Park. So again, this is all detailed more throughout the analysis of the plan, and I'll hand it up to Kush.
So goal 5 is regional collaboration. Those objectives underneath that have to do with collaborating with neighboring towns to improve rail connectivity. I know that was some, as well as standardized maintenance practices and partnering with regional stakeholders to implement strategies for. Also, we have some objecting out water supply program. Goal 6 is to secure sustainable funding. This goal has quite a few objectives underneath it, so I don't go in and list every single one, but it has to do with increasing community support height, as well as developing a strategic approach for identifying key grant funding, exploring the potential for going for those. Also explore the needed town department on the highway to improve efficiency. Also, there are quite a few underneath here comments specifically on any of these. So goal 7, promote agricultural viability. Just maintaining and regularly updating, keeping track of that, and making sure that local farmers are advocating and full energy. So this is something we talked about stakeholder, and this would be key. So making sure that Hanson. So if you go to the next, so in the draft, we did an action plan now, and this shows recommended actions. So these are some of the goals listed before, and any of them that are tied to a specific place, we have a dot there. Some of them are, completely town-wide, but this just shows where goals are located. So point 3, there's the last planning commission meeting, and that is Explorer Trail behind Ocean Spray from MBT right away to Birch Pond included.
If you go to the, so again, just to recap, we have targeted the end of the month for collecting all town feedback and submitting us if there's needed. We'll begin our second round of and, if there are any, we've had a chance to overview the goals, certainly take into account. I will mention a new development, open space and recreation plans can now to 7, and this is like an update that's been made available. So in the implementation currently set for 7 years, it's an easy adjustment for us to strum. That is, it's already given us, and will be.
Joe, can I ask a question?
Yeah, Mr. Kim.
I just wanted to say ahead of this that this is not my opinion. I read the plan. I think it's great. What I've seen so far is awesome. So I'm the chairman of the Community Preservation Committee, and they had some concerns because they're paying for this. So one of those felt like we were just paying all this money for. I'm trying to use the right wording. Probably look it up on our minutes, but the general consensus was we paid all this money. What did we get for it? So I guess. For their sake, I'd like to be able to say to them the substantial difference between this plan, the existing plan, and what they paid for the last plan. I don't know if that makes sense, but substantiation of, is this plan worth the money that was spent on it, right? So, that's their question. I guess I'm just relaying. So they feel like we could have done that in-house. I don't agree, but, I just like if you could address that at some level. I'm not looking for a deep dive, just, don't be ridiculous. This is, we've done a lot of work and it's.
So you got that much time on there here?
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah.
How about on like a last page,
Yeah.
Improvements of, the 25 plan, from just a bullet list of improvements between the 2025 plan compared to the 2017 plan?
So I guess maybe, what I'm asking for is something like, have you changed the plan more than, say, 10%? Or, is this like, is 20% of this plan different from the original? And I think that would satisfy that question. So if you wouldn't mind doing that, that would be awesome.
Yeah, and certainly take that back for discussion. And I will say there are some things that
absolutely.
not because
that's to be expected.
of the effort involved, but just kind of the. When you update a plan over a longer period of time, if this was from 20, 30 years ago, a lot more, but because it's a relatively recently, some of the content, but, we'll factor discussion and we can include, talks about how the plans.
Thank you.
I'm not sure they understand what goes into it.
Oh, absolutely, and that's why I was
And the
hoping
time-
that,
and the
we
time
could,
it
like,
takes.
if I can go back and say, significant changes have been made to the plan, to bring it into compliance and so that, whatever they're saying is.
As liaison to CPA, if you want to bring it back to the Ebenezer that's on the board, ask them how much has Hanson changed in 7 years?
Thank you. I'm only, I'm just trying to be a good chairman. Because, they've asked me to address that with you guys. Like, why are we paying for this? We could have done it ourselves. And, I know Tony perked up when I said that. So, just a little, like, maybe a little narrative saying, like, we've done a significant change in the areas. And, I mean, obviously, the open space as it sits isn't going to change. So, I think a lot of the idea of it and the new updates and stuff that I've read, stuff that I never even thought of. So, for me, I think there's a lot of value in that.
Yeah,
so,
discussions and socializing and everything that you've heard from us will also help doing the stakeholder engagement. The engagement keeps these current. Maybe some of these haven't changed. Again, opens a point of pride for the community. But I think having so.
Yeah, and and you guys, the wording that you've used throughout this document, I think, if you add a little bit to that.
Do you see a sustained arc from the last plan to this plan that clearly shouts out that the town of Hanson's express any kind of development?
What would you say? I would say, and the numbers in front, the town of Hanson, there's a significant, and that number does, increase, so I think those changes are reflected.
Our review. It's more ask from conservation.
If I could just,
Sure.
so just a couple of things. This, I have submitted it to the board, gone to the Conservation Commission as well for their comments. The conservation agent made his comments. So I'll wait till the end. I can either send them now or I can wait till the end of the month. I've been reading, I haven't got through all of it yet. The other thing is just sort of piggyback, if you will, on some of the points they made. Through the South Shore Chamber of Commerce, Hanson received $3,000 from the redo, which will pay for us creating a brochure which will depict all the trails and information, and working with Dave Mansfield. We get the redo, but Dave Mansfield was already sort of working towards that as well. So we're joining forces and we're working with a local printing company to actually do that, because the monies for that has to be spent by the end of June. So we're going to be working quickly with that to, in essence, put out brochures that would go at each trail and explain the trail, and then also, let's say, an overall brochure, if you will. So it's things that we promote the trail systems in Hanson.
Can I add to that? CPC's also accepted an application from Open Space Committee to pay for some of them. I think that's kind of grown legs. And I think a lot of it's because of the work that you guys have already done and people seeing this. We should highlight this. It's already beginning to work,
So by the end of April, if we have any further comments, do you want us to, you prefer us to email it to, or do you want us to email it to Tony? Well, actually, you know what, why don't we do that?
Yeah.
Why don't we email them to Tony, and then Tony can collect, you want them by,
Targeting the end of April.
April
or the end of
30th?
April.
Okay, so
If
by,
they're over.
okay, great.
Okay, and I would,
Sure.
And
Yeah.
one last thing, if I may, I believe that, John, you said, see, if we would look for funding for some type of wayfinding, promote trails and such, the C is the organization that we could go to, the committee that we could go seek funding for that?
Absolutely. I can't say that you asked, but I can only say that certainly be entertained, and I see it not as it go further in open space. So.
When do you, those final comments by the 30th? Would you like to come back?
So we actually are scoped for 2 meetings in our contract. We'd be happy to come back and provide an update. Can you remind me the dates?
5/12, 5/26.
I think 5/26.
Well, I'm sorry, 5/26 Memorial Day.
Oh.
We wouldn't have a meeting that day, so 5/12, or wouldn't be until June 9th. But what you can do is you can, whatever you want to do, closest to Tony, and then Tony can do.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody will be here on the 26th.
Okay. Yeah, I would say I've submitted it to the state. It'll
Sweet.
probably be hopefully nearing the end of state review, but it will leave for state review. So.
And Joe, can I make a request?
Sure.
Can you put them at the beginning of the agenda?
I will, yeah, I'm so sorry. Who knew?
Well, that's actually why I put those appointments first, because I figured, well, we can get through those pretty quick.
I apologize for that.
Tony, could you also please, on behalf of the board, your presentations have been spot on. You yourselves have been spot on for us. I know Tony's been back and forth, and you guys have been extremely responsive for Tony. When the time's right, Tony, can you please send a letter of endorsement letting VHB know that we really appreciate your time and your commitment, especially the fact that it's 8 o'clock. I know you've got to get back to Southie. I'm not sure where you live.
I live in Salem.
So,
Oh my gosh.
if there's anything that we could do, just a letter of appreciation, letter of recommendation, and comment about just how well these presentations have gone and all the feedback we've been given. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
very much.
Yeah.
Need a motion in a second.
You want to get a motion on that?
No, a motion in a second to continue this.
Oh, to continue, I'm sorry.
To June.
Yeah. And a chair, did you have comments?
Oh, just to say that expect your comments in the coming weeks, and
30th.
that we'll be in touch with you soon.
Yep.
So entertain a motion to continue the public hearing until June 9th.
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. Cohen, seconded by Mr. Kemet. Any discussion in regards to the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? 5-0. Really appreciate your time. And thank you very much. Great job.
Have a good night.
You do. Sorry about the Salem.
No.
Hey, there'll be no traffic.
You know what?
Well, actually going from Peabody to Salem sucks.
I'll talk to Luke tomorrow, and I'll make sure that he lets you go home on time.
Time and a half. Moving on to board, anybody want to take a recess? You good? Moving on to board business, zoning application review, application for special permit site plan approval filed under section 7G of the Hanson zoning bylaw by Scott Fanara to approve new plan due to a discovery of 2 exceptions where previous owner deeded portions of this land to an abutting property at 604 County Road, map 82, lot 2A, Hanson, assessors, town planner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the planning board has reviewed this plan previously, which was the dentist's office on County Road. The engineering company had a bad day, I guess.
Is that a flip-flop?
Yes. So what happened was the configuration that they had originally started with, which sort of came out here and Overmore. For some reason, they didn't pick up on the fact that there was 2 triangular parcels deeded out of that parcel to the abutters.
Oh, wow.
And that this is the actual configuration and perimeter of that site. So, with that being said, it required that they completely flip-flop building and parking, and so they resubmitted to the zoning board. They were hoping that the zoning board could maybe do this as a modification, but no, you can't. I mean, this is a whole new application. So it's unfortunate for the applicant that this happened, and it's unfortunate for the engineer that that error was made. So it's the site, basically a mirror image of what was previously submitted and approved as the additions. Buildings on the other side, parking, drainage, septic system is going to be maintained. So they're going before the zoning board on I believe May 20th, and hopefully get a site plan approval. But that was a tough. And I took a look at the deed just to see. I'm like, well, maybe this is a case. Sometimes you may have a case of someone deeded out a parcel to someone else, and it was just done by deed, which really is not something that's allowed. But you can do it if it references a plan that's already on record at the registry. So I could deed out a parcel to Chair, and as long as I reference a plan that's already on file at the registry, I can do that without having to bring in a Form A. But very rarely is it done these days. And unfortunately, if you look at the current deed, it clearly talks about those 2 pieces being deeded out. And then if you look up the references, it refers plans at the registry of deeds. And I mean, that's part of your due diligence when you're going to survey a property. You do all the research. So it's unfortunate that that was missed.
Is there a reason, Tony, why they didn't continue the parking lot out to the High Street and have 2 curb cuts?
I think it's probably the necessity and need, and probably our requirements for just 1 curb cut, I think, is what we allow.
Did they have to reduce the size of that building at all?
I believe that they did not. The building is still the same size. It's just mirrored over. So the existing building will stay until the new building's up and running. Then once it's up and running, they'll go through the process of removing the old building.
Are we still allowed to kind of dabble a little bit in the fall timeframe about proposing from that property edge to the corner as commercial? Take it out of the, right now it's
Right now it's in a residence A zone. I think it's been mentioned. I mentioned it to the applicant when they had first come in to speak with us that it's probably something they should consider at a later date to try and get that property put into the business zone. It would just make more sense. Hopefully they'll be very successful and be in town for a very long time. But if for some reason that didn't happen, then that building under our current bylaw would only be able to be a dentist's office. But at least if it was in the business zone and there'd be an alternative use for that site other than a dentist's office.
So I know this was tight, and we talked about this the last time we looked at this, how tight the previous area was then. So now that's reduced even more.
Well, the impervious area I think is pretty close to the same as before, but now the difference is they're using what's called porous pavement, but you're still beyond the 30% because there's still a parking area. Yeah. And our bylaw says that. So their last numbers were around, I think, 41%, but below the 60 if it was in a business. And obviously, it's not in a business zone, but if it was, it'd be below the 60%.
So really, the big problem is what it's owned as.
Yeah, so,
Any questions or comments that the board has for the ZBA? Entertain a motion to refer to the ZBA.
So who decides whether that becomes a business zone? That's us, right?
well,
Applicant for zoning change.
yeah, I mean, one of two ways. Either A, it could be through the zoning board of appeals, it could be through the planning board, it could be them as citizens could try for a citizens petition for next May to get the zoning line changed. Obviously, it would still come to the planning board because it has to under the zoning, under Section 5 of the Zoning Act.
So it sounds like you're kind of saying that if they were to submit this to the ZBA, they could also at the same time ZBA to make that a business zone.
Good, but we don't have enough time between now and town meeting. It would have to
So it would have to go to town meeting, even if ZBA says that, you know.
They can get their endorsement.
Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, if they wait till, let's say if they wait till October, it's 100 signatures. If they wait till next May, 10, and then they can do a petition. But again, that petition would still have to come through the planning board because that's part of the process.
Entertain a motion to defer to ZBA. Motion's been made and seconded by Mr. Cohen, Mr. Bennett. Any discussion in regards to that motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, 5. Next up, we have zoning application review. Application for special permit site plan approval filed under section 6.d, subsection C, and section 8.d of the Hanson zoning bylaw by Sean Andranio of C2 Design Group for the operation of Planet Fitness at 430 Liberty Street, Assessors Map 82, Lot 7, colloquially known as the Shaw's Plaza.
Yes, sir. So the Planet Fitness is looking to move into the Shaw's Plaza into an existing space. So they've submitted an existing conditions plan that shows the building and the parking. They also submitted a floor plan which shows the layout of the unit itself and where all the equipment is going to be. And so they're asking for approval from the zoning board. They've spoke with the Board of Health regarding the septic system capacity. The only other thing they need to take a look at, I think, is parking capacity and be sure that for the uses that are in that plaza, that the parking that's there will suffice. And more than likely it does, because rarely do you see that parking lot full, but it's obviously something that they should provide a calculation for, sure.
No, they only lost I think 8 or 9 spaces when the ATM thing went in. I don't see it.
I don't know why they put that stupid.
Yeah.
Any questions, comments for the town planner or for the zoning board of appeals? Entertain a motion to defer to ZBA.
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. Bernardo, seconded by Mr. Cohen. Any discussion in regards to that motion? I do have discussion. Defer to ZBA, provided that the town of Hanson employees get a 10% discount. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
I'll vote for that.
Opposed? Okay, 5-0. So deferring to ZBA. Updates, the OC, open space, you saw that. OCPC, Tony attended the last, so if you have any comments, I think it was just a finance meeting. Mr. Ellis, High Street Park Committee?
We're still waiting for some of the engineering report. Still working forward.
Nice. Mr. Cohen, Economic Development.
Only update is our next meeting is May 14th, I believe.
How did everything come out from the thing at Camp Pony?
Yeah, I didn't make it. I was but I heard it went really well, and I know John made it. There was good. Good amount of people.
Yep. Great. Mr. Kenrick, Community Preservation Committee.
I don't really have a lot, other than what I discussed with Tony earlier, that, CP's pretty much a plan, the open space plan, and be to probably write a check at some point.
Nice. Mr. Bonanno, Drainage and Stormwater Committee.
There is none. There is no committee except for myself and Selectman Keel.
I have reached out to the town administrator's office regarding that. Not sure there's
We've reached out. We tried reaching out.
town meeting. That's the key thing. It starts so early that it seems everything kind of gets. But
Town meeting in November.
Is that something that can be dissolved at a selectmen's meeting, or that have to go to that approved at town meeting?
I have that information, and I have to go look. I want to say it was done at town meeting.
Approved at town meeting.
I mean, if there's no flavor for having it, then why have it?
I think that's what keeps bouncing back and forth.
Okay.
Is the flavor. some days it seems like there's a flavor one week for it, and then no flavor for it the week after. So.
Hey, who knew? You know what that comes from? It's Eddie Murphy saying that he was up on stage, he was at Dangerfields. And at the end of it, Rodney Dangerfield came up to him and said, you know, all that cussing and everything, kid, you know, you don't need to be doing that. Then he saw him again 10 years later in a bathroom. And Rodney Dangerfield stood next to him at a commode, and he looked over at him and he went, hey, who knew? Unbelievably successful. Town planner update.
So we have a couple of invoices for the board to sign. One is for Verdantis, and the other is for the Whitman Hanson Express. Verdantis is for a invoice that applies to the pedestrian improvements grant for work that they've been doing. That is $3,711.65. And then the planning board was for the smart growth. Okay, I'm sorry. There's two for Verdantis. The second one from Verdantis is $698.25. That one goes towards the grant, which is for the starter home district. And then we have a third invoice, and that is for a public hearing notice for the Whitman. Oh, I'm sorry, subscription? Renewal notice. Yeah, renewal, not subscription.
For Whitman Hanson Express?
Yeah, for Whitman Hanson
Nice.
Express.
Any objections to signing of the invoices?
No objection.
Thank you very much.
So do you mind if I ask Tony a quick question?
Okay.
You're still working on the 40R, is that true?
Yes.
And how are we with that? Is that like...
In May, we should have a presentation by Verdantis with information. I was hoping to have done it at the end of April. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, when you look at, I want to do it as a public hearing, and so the deadline, because they come out on Thursday, you wind up with 18 days. So it just, as I worked back, it wasn't going to work. I didn't want to put it as just an agenda item. I want to actually make it a public hearing. So
That's a good idea.
The first meeting in May, they'll be coming to us with information and a presentation.
Sorry, I didn't mean to let the cat out of the bag. I was just curious.
No.
Tony, your updates for projects?
So I just wanted to give the board, after we had the super meeting, there was a lot of discussions about different items, and I want to send the board and present the board basically, let's say, the irons that I have in the fire, or that I've been involved with, or am directly or assisting. So under the one-stop grants, obviously the Main Street pedestrian improvements, we have the Zero West Washington Street grant that has sketches that have been done. The wetland line has been delineated. There's been test pits done out there, and the next step is they're going to go to the Conservation Commission with an abbreviated notice of resource area delineation to get the wetland line approved. The smart growth grant, we were looking at considering a single-family growth district, which is 40Y, but due to the limitations in town, we're going to be pivoting more towards a 40R smart growth district. So again, as I just recently said, the Verdantis will be coming to us in May for a presentation of that information. Unfortunately, this grant ends on June 30th, 2025. As we move forward, if we continue to move forward and let's say prepare something for town meeting, I may look at trying to get some funding to have them back in and sort of help us get over the goal line.
I ask just a really brief question. You don't have to get into a deep dive on this. What's the difference between ROI and 10 words or less?
Okay, so Y, strictly single families, 1,850 square feet.
Okay.
R, mixed use, retail on the bottom, residence on the top.
Okay. That's good.
Anything on Quan Street?
Yes, so Hawks have.
Let's get into it.
So
It's on the list.
So Hawks Ave, we have a grant to do additional testing. Some of that's been done through Verdantis, and that's part of the reporting to the DEP. And we also have, there was the first one, which was the testing to see if there was contamination, Then there was the second grant, which is to actually clean up the contamination that they did find.
On Hawks Ave, is there a reason why, do we know the reason why Hubble was done recently?
Yes, so Hubble is doing some investigation work on their own property. They're doing ground penetrating radar on their own property to find and I believe they did find some tanks that had been left over from years ago. Now, the GPR was to locate. Everyone pretty much thought that those tanks were already gone. They found something. The next step is they'll go in to dig out and see what is there. Now, it could be the remnants of tanks that have been crushed in place.
Okay.
I believe that what's happening is Hubble, I believe, is in discussions with Commonwealth to have the Commonwealth purchase Hubble property. And I believe that that's probably part of this process, because a few months ago, there was a company that came into the town hall requesting all kinds of information from the building department and all of the departments, which would lead me to believe that they're looking at doing a 21E on those sites.
Okay.
So if they're doing a 21E on those sites, maybe they're doing their due diligence because they're going to sell those sites maybe to the state.
Okay.
And they want to provide and prove that the sites are clean before the state takes it. Now, this is totally speculation. I have no news that says that that's exactly what's happening. This is just based on an experience and I'll call it an educated,
Professional educated guess.
yeah,
Flag.
yeah, based on what they're doing.
Can I ask you a quick question? I know I was on one of the committees related to the Hawks back, and I was also on conservation at the time, and it was my understanding at the time that Hubble was responsible for any contamination site in perpetuity. So my question would be, if that were true, and I think they even said that at a town meeting, right? So they've said it in public. So I wonder why we would be paying for a clean-out thing that, first place. So I don't want to be a cog in the wheel, I just want to.
No, I've brought up that point because I've heard that from maybe yourself and others.
Mm-hmm.
And there isn't anything, I've been told, there isn't anything that has been a legal document that says that.
So I guess I would say is that the consultant for Hawks Ave stood up, said that at town meeting. Doesn't that hold some weight? I mean, and I would think with DEP as well. I mean, when you contaminate a site, just because you sell it doesn't like the hands of it. So,
I understand though from also our own legal counsel
mm-hmm.
that even though they might have said that, you're supposed to do your own due diligence when you take the property, and so you sort of step into it by not having done it. Then that's the legal, and that's in a nutshell. I can't give you all the legal jargon coming from counsel, but it's basically like, well, when you took it, you should have done it then. Now you own it.
Is this coming up on town meeting again?
No.
Okay.
So it's all. The good thing is, the funding we have is secure at this point. So.
Okay. So Tony, if I could just summarize what you just said, are you saying that what's happening is that a golden hand grenade may be exploding? Somebody pulled the golden pin, maybe?
I can't confirm or deny. So, I mean,
Is that what it said?
So
that's my assessment.
In a roundabout way.
So the next one is 212 Industrial Boulevard. We have a grant for that. We just received the contracts for that grant, so it's $70,000. And so basically what's going to happen on 212 Industrial Boulevard, very similar to what's happening on the 0 West Washington Street. It'll be a delineation of wetlands, survey, some test pits, and at least we'll be able to figure out what can go on that site.
Has there been any percolation of interest?
We have people that are interested in coming to town and putting in businesses.
Yeah, nice.
And the difficult part is finding places for them. And unfortunately, when you have the town-owned land, it's not like you can just enter into a deal with them and be like, sell it to them. So the other one is through the ARPA funding, Pratt Place culvert replacement. So Dalton has delineated the resource areas. They've done soil borings. They're at a 75% design, which if anybody's interested, I can send you copies of. Looks good. They're doing basically it's going to be a temporary crossing adjacent to that culvert, allow the residents to still get back and forth to their property while the culvert gets replaced. And they're hoping, because of a lot of it's going to be precast, they're hoping within a 2-week window to be able to accomplish that.
Can I ask one quick one? Sorry. On the culvert replacement, has North River Commission been notified of that? 'Cause,
I
it's within their
believe they
watershed.
have through the Conservation Commission, but
Okay,
I'm gonna verify, I'll verify
All right,
that.
thanks. Okay.
Let me just.
I'm surprised they didn't call the Army Corps of Engineers down one of those portable bridges.
Well,
This is so
it-
cool.
it's, there was talk of potentially coming in from a different direction, but I'm like, wait a minute, that's just gonna cost so much money to do. And I looked at the temporary bridges. I'm like, we can rent one for like, this is going back some months. We can rent one for like a month for like 50 grand. And, you Bailey Bridge, you come it in, drop it in, and as long as they can get fire truck over it, that's all that matters. Temporary, and you're in, you're out. So open space, as you heard this evening, the housing production plan, that's pretty much getting close to being wrapped up. The comments that had been made by the planning board have been passed on to the consultant. I'm going to be reaching out to her to see where it's at. Hopefully I can bring her in sometime in May to maybe give a final of that production plan, and then that would move on to the state for approval. The Housing Authority, I've been working with Mass Housing regarding 0 Phillips Street. I actually do have a check-in this week with VHB. Tough site. Not a lot of room, but I wasn't ready to give up on it, so I actually asked them to send me information, and I sat down with it to figure out what you could get out of it. And I think there's still, you're not going to get a depot village, but I think you can get something in there that is, depending on the size of the units, I figure that you might be able to get 6 to 12.
Nice.
Again, with some really, let's say, thoughtful engineering. You could probably do something. So I'm not ready to give up on that site just yet. So I'll have a check-in with VHB this week.
Is that AA zoned or?
That one is, I'd have to look at the zoning map. I'm not sure if it's AA.
Just because that could have an impact on.
Yeah. Wait, I'd have to go look. I have to look at the zoning map. Not coming to me right now. Hanson Senior Center, they had a grant for $300,000. We're doing a modular building, 24 by 40. The plans have gone to the state for sign-off. Then that'll go into the queue to get built. Hopefully going to be doing site work within the next few weeks. And hopefully by the end of June, that modular building will be up and ready. Hanson Highway Department, working with the highway superintendent to try and look and examine what's out there and what improvements could be made. Value engineering, if you will, to make it better than what they have, and in essence it would be a Band-Aid. It wouldn't be a brand new DPW of $30-40 million. It would be, we're trying to make a project that's maybe, and this is very, very preliminary numbers, $2 to $4 million, but yet create building space that they could actually put their equipment inside.
Yeah.
Because right now they have equipment trucks particular that will not fit inside. Yeah. And you're talking about trucks that are at least $250,000, High Street Park, hopefully by mid-May we'll have revised plans back to us addressing all the peer review comments. The library, you may or may not be aware, they've asked me to be on the building committee. They're looking to go after owner's project manager. They had a meeting today. Unfortunately, I had residents speaking with me, so I could not attend the meeting, but I'll be involved with them on a basis of just kind of helping them out. The bylaw amendments, we have the accessory dwelling unit. As I stated before, we had sent that to the Attorney General's office. They had made some preliminary comments. Town Council is working to make any necessary adjustments. There may be some minor language adjustments made on the floor or as part of the motion, but when I say minor, it's talking about changing a word. So that's in the work. Outstanding roadway bonds. I've sent all the necessary information up to our town council. Matt Preventure is helping me out there. And so we're going to look at, once he reviews all that paperwork, we're going to try and formulate a plan as to going after the bond monies and giving it back to the town so we can close out some of those projects or use some of the monies to address some of the issues there and maybe either move those roads to public ways or private ways in perpetuity. Online permitting, Permitize. Unofficially, we went live March 17th, but I prepared a notification that's going to go out to all the engineering companies locally that have done work with the planning board. I'm hoping for basically a launch date of June 2nd, so that'll transition to all applications in essence being done online. But obviously, if someone comes in, we're still gonna assist them, because not everyone might be computer literate, so we'll still assist them.
Is that gonna be town-wide, or is that just the planning board?
Eventually, it is going to be town-wide. So your building department's on it. Board of Health is being set up for it. We're good. I believe zoning is on the list. I'm not sure if conservation is on the list. And it's interesting because there's other towns I've seen where conservation for some reason doesn't. I don't know if they make a suite for conservation as far as permanents. But so I'm hoping.
They probably should.
Yeah, you would think. So I'm hoping for a June 2nd launch, and before then we'll not only notify the local companies, but we'll get it out to social media, etc., so let everyone know of that. What I spoke about earlier, the trail maps brochure, that we have $3,000 for that, and so we had to sit down on Friday with the local printing company who's going to do the work for us. And then Economic Development Committee, we're hoping to begin promotion for open space to create tourism, kind of along the lines of the trails. Earmarked projects, we have the Main Street Boardwalk. We're looking at potentially if we could share the right-of-way with the MBTA. That would make a great connection. I mean, it could be a long shot, but it's worth looking at. Hancock Street Park, we had an earmark for that, and I know that they're in Parks and Fields in the process of using the funding, and I believe they've have discussed meeting with the CPC to get some funding or additional funding to get some improvements to that park. Some of the miscellaneous projects is Camp Kiwanee. They're proposing some drainage improvements, so they have an engineer doing design work for that. McQuan School, still reviewing potential issues or uses, I should say, as an athletic complex. But I also have another idea, maybe using the site to make some improvements that would be go along with the open space. 751 Main Street. So the DEP has reached out to the town because they want to assist the town with that site, and I have a meeting tomorrow with the town administrator, DEP, and actually EPA. They basically want to come in and assist the town in getting that site cleaned up.
Is that the one that's next to Crooker Place?
Yes. Yep. So on the one-stop grant program, I had submitted 8 expressions of interest for various projects. 2 of them they gave me feedback on all 8. 2 of them didn't quite meet the criteria, so about 6 of them I'm hoping to push those. I'll be moving on to getting those submitted prior to the deadline, June 4th. I have some new updated planning forms that I want to be bringing to the board. One, we're going to be updating our adequate access application, and just some other forms.
Is that also going to comprise that question that I've had about, you're going to look at the application process?
For the adequate access?
Yeah, like we look at the plans at wetlands, but they're not certified.
Yes.
Is that going to be part of that?
Yeah, that will be under the subdivision control law. That's one of the other things I'm hoping to get into as well. And the one thing is interesting is MS4.
Apply this year.
Yeah, and so I had come up with that application, and Environmental Partners is now known as Apex, and they're working with the Highway Department, and they've actually come up with updating our bylaw, our drainage bylaw, to conform with the new MS4 or updated MS4 regulations, and one of those things is actually an application. So I'll be bringing that to the board. Probably at our next meeting, you'll get copies of what the new bylaw will look like because they have it in red, and so we can make comments. Obviously, those, because it's in the general bylaw, that's something that will take place at October town meeting. But they have a good start on, which is good because that's what they really, they know what to do.
You may need a drainage committee after all.
It's possible. With
some teeth.
Yeah. So then we have Hawks Ave, back to Hawks Ave is examination of possible development upon completion of the remediation. I applied for a Mass Trails grant, and last but not least, for Mr. Ellis, the McQuan Street tip. So the town has an earmark for $100,000. We've received that money.
Nice.
Apex is going to be coordinating the boring testing, but we have the money. It's in the account. So now it's a matter of getting them to start doing the boring testing along that line.
How much is finance miser to we?
And testing is boring, by the way.
So that's about what I have going on.
Well, if they need the extra money, my suggestion is to put a toll gate up there.
Listen,
Vehicles go down there.
Listen, I brought your suggestion regarding shutting the water off to the town of, Pembroke, and that would get their attention, or, shutting their line now, but, people.
They got no,
We tried that on Main Street, and the water main broke on us. Brock had to come up and fix it.
The very last thing I have is there was two applications that had come before for the ZBA. One was for 12 School Street. It was a variance. And it was a variance. It was the 18 by 16 addition. The ZBA did approve it. The second one was for 604 County Road, which was they had approved their previous site plan. And I believe that's all I have.
For good of the order, Tony and I attended the last select board meeting, so we're all prepped and ready for this upcoming town meeting. There's stuff that's on town meeting articles that Tony or I will have to get up and explain a few things. As far as the finance goes, the town administrator will explain how that shuffle happened with that money and the fight. So that's not on us to explain until we need to take the gloves off.
And further to add to that, that will be listed as select board, planning board.
It will be.
Yeah.
Nice. So if you're in attendance at town meeting, we are going to post for town meeting. Like town meeting's all set and ready to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah. Tony's going to come to that night, so we have form. Stand at the meeting, stand at the microphone. Yeah, I don't think other than that, Tony, that bit was awesome. Tony sent that update the other day, and I'm absolutely impressed. You've been extremely communication with us, with the other boards, so thank you so much out of the plan office over to us, getting us everything and backing when we need. Can't say thanks enough.
Welcome.
I'm not going to mention anything about
Do we need a motion and a vote on that?
what.
On your thing?
No. So the next planning board date is April 28th. That's tentative April 28th. I'm going to put it out there right now that I'm not able to attend that night. So it'll be chaired by Mr. Cohen. I entertain a motion to have our planning board meeting on April 28th. So moved. Motion's been made by Mr. Cohen. Second by Mr. Bettinato. Any discussion for that motion besides my absenteeism for that night? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? 5-0. Entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion's been made by Mr. Cohen. Seconded by Mr. Bettinato. Any discussion in regards to the motion for adjournment? Seeing none, all those signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? It's 8:44. We are adjourned.